On this episode of the Breaking the Game podcast, Austin and I are joined once again by Lee Branscome of hoopsprospects.com. We're going to go over the teams from the Memphis Grizzlies to the Orlando Magic alphabetically. There's going to be 8 teams all in all. You're not going to want to miss this. Just stay tuned. Thank you guys so much for being here. We'll be right back after this video. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Breaking the Game podcast. We have Lee, like I mentioned just earlier. We have Austin, my co-host, the full crew. Austin, how are you doing today, brother?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. How you doing, Steven? It's been a long week over here for me.
Yeah, it's I'm right there with you. You know, my wife is about 37 weeks pregnant now, so a little bit of just preparation, getting ready. You got a car seat today. You got the go bag packed up. So
you got.
I might have to split in the middle of this episode and go have a baby. So
hey, couldn't think of a better reason.
Yeah, right. But man, super stoked. It's always good when Lee, comes on here and graces our podcast with his NCAA basketball knowledge. Man, it's great to have you today, Lee. How are you doing, brother?
I just appreciate you guys giving me somewhere to spout my crazy opinions. So you guys are the best. But yeah, it's been a fun.
We love having you.
You know, it's nice to look back and kind of recap and banter it up with you fellas.
Yeah, and I like the fact too that it would be nice if we could just sit down and go give it a full 4-hour setting in one time. But it's nice to let my thoughts mature as much as they possibly can in my brain, right? Still infantile in a way, but it's nice to be able to kind of brew on this and think about it a little bit more after the fact instead of just reacting in the heat of the moment, right?
Precisely.
Definitely.
That's right. And we left off last time talking about the Los Angeles Lakers. That leads us to our next team who, might be one of the league pass darlings this season, especially with the schedule release. Doesn't look like we're going to get to see a lot of primetime Grizzly games. Lee, how do you feel about how Memphis did in the draft this year? They got Desmond Bane. They traded up to the number 30 pick from the Boston Celtics to get him. And then they got Xavier Tillman, the senior, at 35. How do you feel like they did, brother?
Yeah. Well, it's just funny because, people have been making the joke that the NBA draft Twitter is basically running the Memphis Grizzlies because they keep taking kind of all of these NBA Twitter darlings, which sometimes I am on board with NBA Twitter draft darlings and sometimes I'm not. Desmond Bane and Tillman were never they never got anywhere above late first round for me. Desmond Bane was picked 30th. I had him at 26th. He actually creeped up the board late, kind of into my mid to late first round. Xavier Tillman, kind of similar thing. He was picked at 35. I had him at 41. So all in all, I was never crazy about either one of these guys. Like we've talked about before, there's only going to be 22, max 25 players from each draft that become second contract or even rotational players. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, even though I wasn't enthralled with either one of these prospects, the value at where the Grizzlies got them, and from a need perspective on their roster to continue to add passing and defense and wings that can make shots around Ja Morant, I give it a B. Like nothing to write home about in my opinion, but very solid.
Okay. Austin, how do you feel about this draft for the Grizzlies?
Well, Xavier Tillman, he's a Michigan State guy. You know how I feel about guys that are coached by Tom Izzo. So I definitely like that pick for sure. 35, that's a pretty good spot for him. I feel like maybe a little bit high. And then Desmond Bane is somebody that going into the draft, I didn't know a whole lot about, but I heard his name enough to do some research on him. He was one of those cliche late riser type guys. You know what I mean? How it seems like the last couple of days before the draft, just about everybody's rising up the board all at once. But he's a good shooter. He's a solid shooter, so they definitely added, a weapon on offense that they needed to kind of help round out their roster. So I was right there about a B minus as well.
Okay, yeah. Just to make my statement quick, I get him at a C minus. I'm not high on Bane at all. I didn't think that he was like low end second round draft pick for me, just because mainly all he brought to the table was shooting. And I think, just playing at TCU, low pressure, not a lot of high competition, maybe 2 or 3 games a season where he was really playing high quality basketball. I'm bigger on Tillman than I was Bane, but even still, I didn't have him anywhere near 30, 35 to me. I would have liked to seen them take stabs at guys like, Robert Woodard III, Jamius Ramsey, Jordan Nora, if they're looking for like an outside guy. And then for an interior guy, I had better grades for Vernon Carey Jr., Oturu, and Nick Richards. I would have taken them all over Tillman. So with all of those guys being available where they selected these 2 guys respectively, I just felt like it wasn't the worst draft on the night by far, but ultimately I ended up giving them a C minus.
Yeah, and they ended up trading Robert Woodard, because that was their 40th pick that they shipped out. So I'm with you. Like, I prefer Woodard. Bane, he was such a strange one for me because there was a lot of things on tape to like about him. There was kind of this unquantifiable hesitation that I had. Yeah, about like just the way he moves. And it's like really hard to explain, but he's just kind of like a boxy mover. He didn't seem like the most fluid guy. But at the end of the day, he was like a 45% 3-point shooter.
Right, yeah.
So that's why, that's why he snuck up for me a little bit, just because I was like, kind of like we've talked about in the past, Steven. It's like, okay, my eyes are telling me one thing, but then there are some statistical, support to him being a productive NBA player. So that was the only thing I wanted to add on that.
Yeah, I could be completely wrong on him and, have to eat, some crow on him. Go ahead, Austin.
Oh, I was just going to say, I would have liked to see them go with, maybe somebody that's a little, like a younger, like upside type prospect. They're this pretty young team, so they don't necessarily need to go after guys that they think are ready right now to play.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
They could have taken, maybe they took a little bit of a reach to try to get a guy that's going to be a little bit better down the road. We'll see.
Yeah, that's a fair point. All right, we'll transition now to the Miami Heat. They just had a very, very solid year. Losing to the Lakers in the finals. Austin, there you go. There's another pat on the back for your Lakers there.
Thank you, sir.
I know that they're starving for attention right now. Right. So I'm glad I can help. But the Miami Heat, they only had 1 draft pick. They had the 20th pick, and they selected Precious Achiuwa. A lot of scouts are back and forth on this guy. I know a lot of draft analysts, including you, Lee, kind of back and forth on him as well. For me, I'll just speak on my note real quick. I just had a short one. He was 33rd on my board, so not too terribly far off, right, from where he was selected. I get the idea of why they like him, especially with all the Bam comps. I think that he's probably a closer comparison to Bam Adebayo than Onyeka Okongwu, just in my opinion, right? But again, we talk about this all the time. Bam wasn't Bam when he was selected by Miami, right? So it's hard to project, exactly how a guy is going to grow into something that he wasn't when he was taken, right? So, Precious playing in Memphis, everyone thinks that he can guard the 1 through 5. That may be a little bit generous. Maybe, 2-3 positions is what I'm thinking ideally. But overall, I would have liked to seen them take a guy like RJ Hampton, Emmanuel Quickly, a Jaden McDaniels. But ultimately, this is a pick that I think works out better for the prospect than it does the team. If he was taken anywhere else, I think I would not like it as much. Ultimately, I gave them a C+, Lee.
Yeah. So, yeah, like you said, the Heat are pretty quick. Just 1 selection at 20. So Precious was an interesting one because, I had him at 36. So I really wasn't that high on him on my final board. And then to your point, Miami takes him at 20. And I've stayed pretty confident with like really all of my draft opinions so far. Precious was the one that I'm really rethinking.
Right.
One, because of what you said, Miami took him, and I like his chances to succeed in Miami more than I do some of the other places he could have gone. I also thought from a roster fit, you saw when Bam was hurt late in the playoffs for Miami that was such a gaping hole for them. And I'm not saying Precious can fill that hole right away,
Right.
But the Heat need to throw dartboards at front court depth, because if something like that happens again, it can't be so debilitating for them.
Yeah.
They need to be able to plug and play somebody else in the front court that can help. Precious is a good swing on that. So he's really been the one guy that I'm like regretting a little bit.
What did I miss type thing?
Yeah. Because I think I underrated the defensive versatility like that you talked about. And he's got a chance to improve on the offensive end. It's not completely broken. He just needs development.
There's a lot there to improve upon, though.
So there is. No, there totally is. I mean, the shot is very much hit or miss. It's not consistent yet. He can, on one possession, he takes a stretch three, and you're like, why isn't this guy a top 10 pick? And then the next possession, he like hits the side of the backboard,
or turns the ball over pretty easily.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds like Miles Turner.
Yeah, right. I mean, if he becomes Miles Turner, I think they'll be all right with that, probably.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would.
But then again, like the Pacers also can't trade Miles Turner right now, so I don't know how great he is. I guess. Anyways,
right.
Like a B plus, because I'm warming to Precious.
Yeah, me too, and that's kind of where I fall. Austin, what do you think, man, of their one selection that they had?
I actually gave them a C for this one pick. Precious just didn't really stick out a whole lot to me in what I watched of him. He just kind of seemed like he had a lot of holes in his game. He's definitely got a lot of work to do, that's for sure. And wouldn't it be nice if everybody that was that size with that athletic profile just turned out to be Bam Adebayo? I mean, if that's,
sure would.
If that's the plan for everybody that looks like that, then I think they'll be great. But in all reality, guys like Bam are come along once in a generation usually. Yeah. So, I don't think it's fair to expect him to turn into anything like Bam. And I don't know. I felt like I get what you're saying about needing another big when Bam was off the court, but he just seems really redundant to me. And I feel like there's a lot of better options still available that they could have taken there. So I gave him like a C minus. I wasn't too high on this pick.
Yeah, and even Bam, just real quick before we move on, he had like projectable offensive tools, right, Lee? Like he had a workable mid-range shot in college, which kind of gives you a little bit of warm fuzzy that he could stretch that out. And he could even hit that like off of a one dribble, not like breaking down a defense, but he could take it, put the ball on the ground one time, and then pull up and hit a mid-range shot, right? So he had projectable tools there. Precious doesn't even have that, so it's kind of hard to really gauge how he can move forward and be a Bam Adebayo, right?
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
All right.
It seems a lot like a project to me. I don't know if that's what Miami needed.
I mean, we've seen what they've done with undrafted and second round draft picks, and like people that otherwise would give up on those guys. Miami done wonders. So true. I'm kind of like Lee. Like if Miami sees something and I'm like that made me second guess myself where he was selected for sure. But speaking of second guessing, the Milwaukee Bucks, we all know that they're trying to do everything they can to appease Giannis Antetokounmpo. They had the hiccup with Bogan Bogdanovic out of Sacramento. They got a good ball handler in Drew Holiday. And in this draft, they had 2 second-round picks that they ended up using. They took Jordan Nwora and Sam Merrill at 45 and 60, respectively. Austin, how do you feel like Milwaukee did in this draft?
Well, considering, where they were picking, I think they did fairly well. I actually like Sam Merrill. He's kind of a darling of our network, I think, so to speak, where I first heard his name. So I was
Chris
happy
LeBron
to see.
is a big fan.
Right. I was happy to see him get drafted. And Jordan Nwora, I like too. They're both pretty solid picks. I feel like they were decent value where they were taken. So I gave them like a B plus.
Okay. Lee, what about you, brother?
Yeah. So I gave the Bucks a C, and to your point about the trade, this will be the last picks we see for the Milwaukee Bucks for a long time. They shipped out the entire draft war chest to bring in Drew Holiday. So this will be the glass grade they get for a while. So that you're right. They traded away RJ Hampton with the 24th pick in that Drew Holiday deal, which I thought of, maybe they couldn't have got the deal done without throwing the 24th pick in, but
most likely,
right? He would have been a nice long-term piece for them.
Yeah, I really like RJ.
Wara, right where I had him. I had Wara at 43, and they took him at 45. So very much in sync there of where I felt like he was reasonable value. I mean, at the end of the day, he's a 6'7" wing that was a plus 40% 3-point shooter at Louisville. He's got a little bit of on-ball creation, but certainly not going to walk in the NBA as like an on-the-ball wing offensive type. But look, he's another big wing that can stretch the floor and maybe play a little bit alongside Giannis. They're always looking for. I mean, Pat Connaughton. Like, can Jordan Nwora be an upgrade to Pat Connaughton? Maybe not. But I get why they did it. And then Sam Merrill, he was off my board, but he was certainly one of those guys that would have been right there. I think he was top 80 for me. So again, another shooter, veteran player with, experienced player with some ball skills as well. He might be a two-way guy for a little bit, but not bad value for the Bucks. But trading away RJ, I just figure I'll give him a C. I wasn't crazy about it.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I didn't really consider much about trading away RJ, who I think have been a great long-term prospect for the team, in order to bring in a Drew Holiday. But at the same time, I understand, trading away an RJ Hampton for a Drew Holiday, if you feel like that helps you keep Giannis Antetokounmpo. So like you can cut that cake out, so many different ways. I gave the Bucks an A-. I had Jordan Nwora actually 29th on my board. Yep. Which I understand. Like, I just got done talking about Bane. Nwora, I think, has a little bit of the same characteristics. I just think that he's a more aggressive defender than Bane. Playing in Louisville, you kind of have to be at least kind of somewhat capable on both ends of the ball to get consistent burn. He's a great rebounder too. I don't think that was anything that got talked about a whole heck of a lot in his evaluations. He almost got 8 rebounds a game, as a perimeter player. So he shows like he could probably be multi-positional, and obviously the great 3-point shooting, shot over 80% from the free throw line. So that typically indicates that he's going to be able to carry that out throughout his career, that he'll be a good long range threat. I didn't have I'm sorry, my buddy Rafi Garrett said y'all are talking basketball, but Aaron Jones just had a 77-yard run for a touchdown. Appreciate you coming on here. And
I wish it was a pass instead. I've got Rodgers.
Right. Yeah. Well, I got Williams on a flex right now because of bye weeks. But anyway, back to basketball. Sam Merrill, like you, Lee, he wasn't in my top 60 at all. But again, when you look at what the Bucks need, surrounding Giannis with shooters, I think is a good idea. And, taking it 60, the odds of him getting consistent playing time are very slim. But, he could be this draft's Isaiah Thomas. You know what I mean? He could end up being one of those guys that gets consistent playing time. And, if you can shoot the three, which Merrill showed that he showed that he can play make a little bit at, at the collegiate level. So maybe he ended up doing well, even though I didn't grade him out that high. It may be more so where he was taken, by the team, as opposed to where he was taken numerically on the board. Kind of like how we were talking about with Precious, right? Basically, to boil it all down, I think that both of these guys address the perimeter need that Milwaukee had, especially with missing out on Boban and, trying to just keep Giannis happy. I think taking 2 excellent shooters, A- for me. I could be talked down to a B+, but nothing lower than that for those guys. All right, now we got the Minnesota Timberwolves, and we all know that they were blessed with the honor of having the number 1 pick in a less than stellar star-filled draft. They took Anthony Edwards, number 1. Leandro Balmaro ends up coming over at the 23 spot, and then they also end up getting Jaden McDaniels in a series of trades that involved the Thunder and a bunch of other people. We won't, try to untangle this ball of yarn right here on the show, but a lot of trade activity between those 2 teams. Mm-hmm. Austin, what did you think about the Timberwolves draft night?
Well, obviously, they were the number 1 overall pick, so they were the, arguably the big winners, even if they mess it up. They'd have to mess it up pretty bad to not at least, immediately come out as, on top. So, I like Anthony Edwards. I think he's got, great size, great scoring ability. I think he has all the tools and potential to be a future star in this league. I think this draft's going to kind of fool some people. I think we're going to get quite a few, pretty good NBA players out of this draft, all-stars, perennial all-stars and better even. So, I'm actually pretty high on some of the guys in this class. I just feel like a lot of times it ends up shaking out that way whenever everybody consensus is that this is a little bit weaker class. It turns out not to be the case. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't be too surprised if that's how it went with this one as well. But, Edwards, obviously the number one pick. I like Ball, but Ball doesn't really fit for their roster as well as Edwards. So I think it was a great pick from that aspect. So for that one, I'll give him an A. And I forgot, who else did they take? Balmaro.
Yeah,
Leandro Balmaro. Mm-hmm. Don't know a whole lot about him, and that's why we have Lee on the show tonight, because he can fill me in and educate me a little bit on him.
And they took Jaden McDaniels also.
I do know Jaden McDaniels. Yeah, I like him for sure. I think you had him pretty high on your list, and
fifth on my board.
I was pretty high on him as well. I wasn't quite that fond of him.
When I like a guy, I like him a lot.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But so I gave him for the two picks who the guys actually know a little bit about. I gave him an A.
So an incomplete A. All right, Lee, are you gonna be able to talk him down a little bit off of that, or up even higher? What do you think?
So I had a B. So it's funny because this grouping, we've been kind of going through with different groups alphabetically. Mm-hmm. This is the first group that I feel like I didn't completely have to rip a team for what they did. I honestly, I think my lowest grade is a C with the Bucks. So, Timberwolves, Anthony Edwards was my number one player. They took him number one. I support that decision. Balmaro is a Spanish kind of jumbo point playmaking.
Yeah, kind of combo guard. Yeah.
Yeah, he's 6'6". He can create on the ball. His shooting statistics weren't eye-popping, but he's a solid shooter, so he can play off the ball as well. And obviously his size gives him some defensive versatility. He's not going to be a guy, I don't think, that comes over right away. So actually, I believe he already re-signed to go back to Real. So, you may not see Balmaro for a year or two, and that's probably okay because the Wolves brought in rookie Ricky Rubio this offseason too. So with Russell and Rubio, there's just really not a ton of on the ball minutes to be had in Minnesota. So that's fine, even though I wasn't crazy about Balmaro. He was not actually on my board. That was probably one of the main guys that I did not have being drafted that was. And then Jaden McDaniels, I had him at 28th on my board. They got him at 28th. I thought that was because I see what you see, Steven, from an upside. There it is, Chris.
Off the ball. Hey, I thought it.
Good at pointing that out.
Yeah.
He always.
It's just something I have to just not say every time because
it's like he's got a bell ready to go on his computer every time somebody says it.
Goes straight to
right. It's a Woj bomb.
Tripwire.
But yeah, so that was like the range for McDaniels where I thought the risk reward profile was warranted, and for the Timberwolves to take a swing on a 6'10" wing with guard skills that late in the first round, more power to them. So solid B for me.
Yeah, I echo those same sentiments. Lee, I actually gave them just a straight up B. Anthony Edwards. I hated that they drafted for need, so to speak, here because there were, in my eyes, he was sixth on my board, right? And I actually had McDaniels above them, so that kind of helped them out for my grade. I think that there was a better player that they could have taken also for need, and that was Obi Toppin. I just think that he's got a more NBA ready game. I think he can play next to Cat. Both of those guys can shoot, right? So how often do you have a front court where your 4 and your 5 could stretch the defense open to create, lanes for, D'Angelo Russell? Taking Edwards also doesn't make sense when you consider that they just gave, what's his name? Malik Beasley. They just gave Malik Beasley a 4-year, $72 million contract. Also has, an investigation open on him too. So maybe that's why. But which one of these guys do you start at the 2? Does one of them play the 3? But neither one of these guys are your typical like 3-sized player. So you're going to be playing small. So I didn't really like that. And we talked about, his lack of like effort, attitude sometimes when he was playing, in Georgia. So I don't know if giving him the distinct honor of being the number 1 pick and the most money awarded to any other rookie necessarily curbs that, especially in Minnesota, where Karl Anthony Towns and, Andrew Wiggins kind of had similar character flags as well, right? So maybe we see something kind of repeatable there. Leandro Balmaro, I had him 39th on my board. I probably would even talk them down a little bit lower in a grade, actually, Lee, if you're correct, and he doesn't come over and play immediately. Even though they have Ricky Rubio, they don't really have, a lot of creation depth outside of those two. And it doesn't hurt to have, a third guy who can come up and run a simple pick and roll offense even, right? Mm-hmm. But they made up for a lot of those errors in my eyes, taking my 5th overall prospect at number 28. I do see a huge upside for, Jaden McDaniel. I think that the style of play that happened in Washington doesn't really suit someone of his size and build and ability to create on the perimeter, right? So, I gave them a B. Didn't hate it, didn't love it, but right. A lot of these guys made sense where they were taken ultimately. So, with that, we can transition to the New Orleans Pelicans. Lee, what kind of grade did you give them, brother?
I love what the Pelicans did in regards to their 13th pick. They got Kira Lewis Jr., sophomore point guard out of Alabama. Kira Lewis Jr. was 7th on my board. I was incredibly bullish on him as the next level point guard, and I think it's a good fit with Drew Holiday leaving. There's actually some opportunity there for Kira Lewis to step in and contribute right away, and I think he's, as much as I think he has untapped improvement, I think he also can be an immediate contributor, which is why I'm so high on him. So the B+, but the only reason why it wasn't an A+, because I love Kira, was because they traded away Elijah Hughes and Nick Richards on draft night, and I loved both of those guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Austin, your thoughts?
Well, I felt the exact same way about that trade with Elijah Hughes. I really loved him last year for Syracuse. He led
he was a guy you talked offline about a lot.
Led the ACC in scoring. That's no small feat, but I didn't really like that trade. But Kira Lewis, it's a really good pick. I like it a lot. I'm in the B range for that, for him for that one. It looks a little worse when you look at the name right above him and see that Tyrese Halliburton almost fell into their lap. But yeah, regardless, Kira Lewis Jr., definitely fills a need for this team. He's got a great shot. Another ball handling guard that's got some good size. It seems to be the thing in New Orleans for sure. And we all know Lonzo Ball's good, but he's definitely streaky. So, it might do them well to have a solid backup for him that can come in there and, hit some shots for them, because Lonzo's not exactly the best shooter. But I gave him like a B+ overall. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, and my buddy Phil Tross come on and was saying that he would have preferred Ball in Minnesota. Just real quickly, do you agree with Ball going to play in Minnesota alongside of D'Angelo Russell?
Well, I like that they took Anthony Edwards because he was the number 1 play on my board, but I do understand the argument, or I guess better phrase, I would push back against the argument that LaMelo and D'Angelo couldn't have worked together. I think they actually could have. I mean, the biggest thing about the NBA is putting talent together, right? And LaMelo's shooting numbers were not great in Australia, but the one part of his shooting numbers that weren't terrible were catch and shoot. So he was horrible off the dribble, and he was horrible from the mid-range and the 3 overall. But specifically his catch and shoot numbers weren't all that horrific. So my point for saying that is there is some reason to believe that LaMelo, if he can learn to cut and play within a motion offense, wouldn't necessarily be a horrible fit beside another ball handler. And you're going to see that in Charlotte because Devontae Graham can create on the ball.
Yep.
LaMelo Ball will be out there with him. And I think that'll work a little better than people thought. So to answer the question, I'm still in support of Edwards, number one, but I also don't buy the argument that LaMelo couldn't have worked there because I think he could have.
Well, Austin, do you have any quick thoughts?
I mean, honestly, if you just think about it on its face, like anybody can make an argument for a 6'7" point guard with elite passing skills to, in theory, be a great fit on any team. But I feel like whoever went number one this year to Minnesota was definitely going to have an uphill battle in terms of, just winning culture. And, they definitely don't have the best track record with the guys that are there in terms of, putting winning ahead of everything else. They kind of seem like, empty. There's a lot of empty numbers there, and I don't know if that would have worked out well for LaMelo Ball. I think he ended up in a better situation for him personally.
Yeah, and real quick, I think it's really hard, especially in today's NBA, when the point guard, arguably maybe the most important position on the floor. If you're a point guard that can't particularly shoot or score very well and defend, the other parts of the game that are also very important, you need to be like excellent to elite at in order to just be an average to, borderline all-star at, right? So like the catching and shooting numbers, I agree, Lee, were like not terrible, but they also weren't like, great. Yeah, they weren't like good.
Slightly less bad than the other shooting numbers.
Correct. Yeah. So I mean, like it doesn't stink as much, I guess is the best way I can put it. Right. So with the lack of shooting, the lack of defense, hey, does that remind you of any other guard that's also on that team, D'Angelo Russell? So like a lot of redundancy there. I didn't see that as a perfect marriage. I actually prefer Edwards as far as fit wise, not that he's going to be a better player overall than LaMelo. I think fit wise, it kind of worked a little bit more because at least he plays another position and has a skill set that's not redundant that they actually still needed as well. Right. But back to New Orleans, I also gave them a B+, Lee. I also had Kira Lewis Jr. 7th on my board. Love his game, love his speed, love his defense, a little bit turnover prone. I don't think that's going to go away with Stan Van Gundy, in a fast-paced offense running with Zion and Brandon Ingram, which also I love that fit with having someone who can push the ball that Zion doesn't have to wait for to bring up the basketball. Lonzo, I don't know what the long-term plans with him are, so I would have given this a higher grade if they didn't already have Lonzo and they didn't also trade for Eric Bledsoe. I don't think that Bledsoe is in their long-term plans, but Stan Van Gundy is kind of a veteran-friendly NBA head coach. Maybe Bledsoe steals a lot of minutes away from him. I would absolutely hate that because I love Kira Lewis Jr. But ultimately, I think when you can grab the 7th best player on your board at 13 and you're a up-and-coming team in the Western Conference, kind of good for you, right?
Yep, agreed.
Definitely.
All right. So
I think New Orleans is going to be fun to watch for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. Again, like having a speedster with Zion is going to be a blast, right? All right, so now the moment that like 2/3 of our network has been waiting for, the New York Knicks. We're going to evaluate their draft. Austin, they took Obi Toppin at 8, and they took Emmanuel Quickly at 25. How do you feel like the Knicks did, brother?
Well, honestly, I love both of these picks for the Knicks. Toppin, I didn't expect to be anywhere near still there at 8. I had him as my 4th best player on my board and arguably the most NBA ready guy in this entire draft. We know he's going to come in and be able to score right away. He's going to give them, a basically guaranteed, 17, 18 to 20 some points a night, I feel like, which is something they've kind of lacked significantly lately. Putting him next to RJ Barrett looks like it'll be a lot of fun too. I'm excited to see what those two can do together. I do think that, Barrett's poised to make a big leap from last year.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I'm also, kissing up to the boss. I'm giving him an A for sure for this draft overall.
Well, there you go. Lee, there's a lot of eyeballs on you from our network, man. Can you hold up to the pressure and give them an honest grade, or are you just going to fold and give them an A+?
No. I can give them an honest grade, and I can do it with a clean conscience.
Okay.
Because I have the receipts. I went on Chris's mock draft and I mocked Obi Toppin to the New York Knicks at 8 because of what Austin said. He's the most NBA ready, immediate productive player, I think, in this NBA draft. I think he's probably the heads-on favorite to win Rookie of the Year because of that. Yes, there are defensive concerns. Yes, there are mobility concerns. But he's gonna score and he's gonna rebound from day one in the NBA. And the New York Knicks, which have a checkered past of decision-making history, seems to be headed now by a intelligent basketball front office. They didn't chase bad contracts this offseason. They added reasonable pieces, and they seem to be willing to take a little bit of short-term pain and develop a roster rather than continuing to chase these overpaid veteran players that aren't even going to get you in playoff contention. So I like what the Knicks are doing. And also one thing other people were saying prior to the draft was, oh, the New York Knicks have a million power forwards. Why would they take Obi Toppin? Well, Bobby Portis is out of town now. Taj Gibson is out of town now. Julius Randle is still there, but that's fine. And then I've got the receipts on Emmanuel Quickley. I was banging his drum for months. I told everyone he was a first-round pick. He is a first-round talent. He goes 25th. I had him at 19th on my board. I think he's going to be a much more solid two-way wing in the NBA than people realize. So, look, Knicks get an A, man, and that's because that's my true opinion.
And no, I believe you. I knew how you felt about these guys on here. I'm just playing up to the build of the moment with Chris coming here. Obviously, we got Austin. What do we got? Easily got 5 Knicks fans on our network.
Huge Knicks fans too.
Yeah, we got
the most serious Knicks fans that I know, bar none.
Yep. And Chris just came on and said, "This is why I love Lee." So there you go.
If I can make one counterpoint to show that I'm unbiased, I'm not a big as Miles Powell fan as all the Knicks people are right now. That's the one pushback that I'll give. I don't think he's necessarily going to be your point guard of the future. Although I understand the optimism, he was a hell of a college scorer.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You're just throwing a little bit of an elbow, just a
little bit,
just a little bit,
just to keep them honest.
There you
go. Also, real quick, I just want to speak to something that Chris said in his comment just now recently. I think the difference with those guys that he named that kind of flamed out.
Hang on, just real quick. I'll let you finish your thought. That was my buddy Phil who made that. Not
it's
Chris.
Phil. My bad. It's Phil. Okay. Speaking to Phil's point, my bad. I didn't even look at the name.
Totally fine.
We were talking about Chris. But anyway, I would just say that the difference here is Obi Toppin's level of athleticism. Those guys were, for the most part, kind of undersized, below the rim, big body type players, and I don't see Obi Toppin in that same mold at all. I think he's definitely a fit for the modern NBA for sure.
Yeah, and I think the slight pushback I would give on Phil's part to what you just said is that Derek Williams was also a freaky athlete in college, but kind of something that you were just speaking on. None of those guys were as polished scorers either. And it's so when we talk about undersized 4, what is an undersized 4 in today's NBA? He's 6'8", he's about 230, 240. That's not undersized. I would say that's probably an average size for a power forward in today's NBA, right? So he can shoot, he can drive, he can dunk. I'm just gonna roll into my A+. That's right. I had an A+ grade for the Knicks as well. Obi Toppin was my second best prospect on the board, largely because it wasn't as projecting for the ceiling as much it was how high his floor actually is. The defensive concerns, I think playing for Tom Thibodeau, he's going to help to at least improve those. And I don't think that, and Chris just said that he's definitely not undersized, but right. I think that whatever defensive concerns that there are, it's hard for one college player who's not a center to make your defense look elite by himself. You know what I mean? So how much of, Dayton's defense was solely on, Toppin. Now, granted, in his individual matchups, his ability to roll his hips and move and slide with guys, you could pick that apart. But I think that he can also improve on those in in a scheme and a system that's really going to help him focus on the defensive end. I think he's also going to be a Rookie of the Year favorite candidate. He's mine. Just because of his offensive versatility. And plus, he'll be playing with RJ Barrett and hopefully Mitchell Robinson still there. I don't know why I always hear Mitchell Robinson potentially getting traded.
That was the old front office.
Yeah, that was the old front office, right? And I guess Phil's saying that he's more likely, a 4 that will play the 5. I don't see playing next to Mitchell. I don't see him taking minutes at the 5. I mean, maybe he'll give kind of some small ball 5 minutes. But I mean, Montrezl Harrell does the same thing, and he's 6'7", 6'8", So I mean, he's similar size, similar build. But I just think, and Chris is going to come on here and give us a whole lineup. He's in. They need to deal Randall and slide Obi to the 4. Totally agree.
Just don't trade him with the Hornets, please. I got no Julius Randall.
Well, I mean, the Knicks aren't trading away anybody with Kentucky ties. And, one thing that you were mentioning early, Lee, about all the moves that they made, I agree with all of that so long as they also played at the University of Kentucky, right? That's ties to CAA. Like, that's what they were after this offseason. They want to capitalize on those relationships. They got a very player-friendly front office. So that was a lot of the reasons for the moves that they made. Exactly, yep. So you got to lay that foundation. You got to let guys know that, hey, we love you guys. Come on over and play for us. And we also are the New York Knicks, right? Yeah. So I gave them an A+. And just real quick he was 20th on my board, Lee. I could be talked into 19. I really loved him a lot. I don't think that his shooting got talked about nowhere near enough. Like, this dude is just lights out, just shooting the ball and could take ridiculously tough shots as well. So, in his defense, obviously you spoke on that, Lee, so I'm not going to hit that over the head too much harder. But yeah, I gave him an A+, not 12 pluses like Chris came on and said, but just a real solid A+, nothing special.
Hey, we're definitely company guys, that's for sure.
I wholeheartedly mean that. Like, if they would have,
I do too. I'm just joking.
And I really love Quickly. Like, if they probably would have taken anybody but Quickly, like, that may have taken them down to a B+ by itself.
And I think too, with Toppin, the defensive concerns are pretty overblown, just because I think the learning curve on defense from college to the NBA is a lot bigger than people really give it credit to it. I think there's a ton about NBA defenses that these guys have to learn. And it's not like he's the type of guy that seems like he doesn't want to play defense, or like he doesn't have the athleticism or, ability to do it. I just think he needs, some work with the coaches on that end. And, Thibodeau's definitely going to give him that. So I think those concerns are minimal to me at most. And I really, really love him overall. So as a player, and I think the Knicks hit a home run.
Yeah, I do too. And he wants to be there, which, how many players say that they want to play in New York, right? So that's a huge benefit for them. All right, Lee, the Oklahoma City Thunder have been busy ever since the word go, and that didn't stop on draft night. At one point, I thought that they were going to have Jaden McDaniels. I was about to be super happy to see him paired up with SGA. It just didn't work out. The cards did not play out that way. They ended up getting Alexei Pokusevski at 17. And a lot of people behind the scenes were like, yeah, the reason that Oklahoma City was trying to get all these picks is because they really like Alexei Pokusevski, which we thought that the Mavericks were going to walk away with him on draft night. So the Thunder kind of stole the Mavericks thunder, if you will, there. They end up with a Theo Maledon at 34. And then I'm going to try my best to say this. If anybody's a fan of this guy, 1, good for you. 2, don't hurt my feelings, because this is really the first time I've heard of him. It's Vit Kritsky. Did I say that right? Vit Kritsky?
Sounds great.
Sounds great. All right. They have him at
nobody 30. Will know if he didn't.
Right. That's what. There's probably one person that's going to listen to this. They'd be like, I'm the biggest Vit Kritsky fan there. All right. Anyway, Lee, what did you end up giving the Thunder for a grade?
A for the Thunder.
Whoa.
Yep. So Pokusevski was obviously one of the most polarizing players in this class. Here's why I love the pick for the Thunder. I had Poku at 21, so I'm not even one of these guys who thought that Poku was worth a top 10 pick. What I love about it is the Thunder can be patient. Mm-hmm. The Thunder can take home run swings because Sam Presti and that front office have built up a ton of equity in Oklahoma City. They will allow them to have short-term pain for hopefully a long-term payoff. They will be granted that runway. And that's what you need for a situation for Poku to be successful, because he's not a player that is going to help you in the first 2 years of his career, in my opinion. I mean, he's the youngest player in the draft. He's rail thin. He played in the Greek B League. So, I mean, the jump in competition is titanic for him.
Right.
He's going to be adjusting to life in America. He is going to come over right away, from what I can tell. You may even see him in the G League some this year. Like, that's possible, even with as young as the Thunder's roster is. So the reason why I love the pick, because I thought anywhere after pick 15 or so is good risk reward profile for Poku, in my opinion. So they got him at 17. I think that's reasonable. I think it's even more reasonable when you consider the situation the Thunder are in.
Yeah,
and
their
then,
timeline. Yeah.
Yeah, the second part of that A is Teo Maledon. I mean, he was 12th on my board.
I know you're a big Maledon guy.
Love Maledon. I won't do my Maledon rant because I've done it quite a few times, but
I mean, I wouldn't mind listening to it. I like your Maledon thing, bro.
Yeah, I mean, essentially he's a young French point guard that's been playing professional basketball since he was 16 years old. He can shoot off the dribble. He's got great start and stop, like, attacking ability. He's very herky-jerky, but he's one of those guys that doesn't wow you with his athleticism, but when you watch him, you realize that he pretty much gets by any defender that's in front of him, and he can really pass. So, like, shooting off the dribble, the ability to get by defenders, and the ability to find teammates in a 6'4", 19-year-old's like prospect profile, I'm completely on board with that. And again, they can be patient with him. They can play him along SGA if they want to. Vit, I'm not going to give him much on Vit.
Yeah.
I can be honest and say that I never saw him play. I certainly read some articles post-draft. He's had some injuries, but he's apparently a kind of 6'9" swingman with a ton of skill. So probably not a guy we see right away, but one to file away and maybe remember for later.
just another trade asset, right? For Sam Presti is how I look at it. The rights. I could definitely wake up. I can envision one day waking up and seeing an article that says, the Oklahoma City Thunder trade for blank, and then in the middle of all the stuff they give up, they'll also say and rights to prospect Vits Kriski. So
right,
I could definitely see that. All right, Austin, go ahead, brother.
The Thunder are on pace to have every first round pick in 2024 or so. So they have no business taking anybody that is, scheduled to pan out right away anyway. So why not take a shot at a couple young guys with, serious upside. I like what you said about Maledon. He's one that I didn't know a whole lot about. I knew he's from France. He's been playing professionally for quite a few years. So
Tony Parker protege.
Right. There's definitely some value in that. But Pokusevski, I mean, they took that late in the first round, right at the end of the
lottery. Yeah, right past the lottery.
Like just outside of the lottery, taking a guy that's 7 foot tall that can shoot and handle the ball like he can. There's nothing but upside there. If he does pan out, they'll look like geniuses in the long run. So I gave him an A for both of those picks. I like both those guys a lot, and I'm with you guys. I'd never heard of that Vit guy, but good luck to him.
Yeah,
made it further in basketball than I ever did.
Yeah, I mean, to go from nobody hearing about him to be taken 37th overall, this may be one of those things. Like, what do the Thunder know that we don't? Obviously, they know Vit Kriski. That would be the starting point, right? What do they know that we don't? Is who he is. So,
I mean, how many 37th overall picks end up, panning out and being big time contributors anyway? You know what I mean? So,
yeah, and I mean, given a guy who can. I'll roll into my grade. Don't hate me, Lee. I gave him a C-. This is like where you and I. Right. This is the first time in the show, though, that you and I have been like opposite ends of the scale, right?
You gotta have that sometimes. You got
to. You don't learn anything if you just surround yourself with people who think exactly like you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you're welcome, by the way, Lee. So, Alexei Pokusevski, I had him 31 on my board. There's too much risk there for me to take him with a number one pick. But if I had the first pick in the second round, heck yeah, I would take a chance on Alexei, right? He's rail thin, like you mentioned. What position does he play? He's not really super athletic. So and he's not like a plus defender. So maybe you tried, a funky lineup a la Myers Leonard, playing like a stretch 4 role. But he also can handle and shoot. So he's just, like you mentioned, he's polarizing. That's like the perfect word. That, like, if you look up the word polarizing in the dictionary, there would be Alexei Pokusevsky. I'm also not high. This is why I say don't hate me. I'm also not super high on Teo Maledon. I did have him 40 on my board, so taking him here, made a little bit of sense as far as, where I had him graded and where he ended up being selected. I also like the idea of playing him next to SGA. So, taking him here made a little bit of sense to me. We talked about this before on either this segment or the one prior to it, where, you get in these mid 30s and on, if you got a guy that you really like, just take him, so I get that. And again, I'm not going to go on a big, soliloquy on fit here because I don't know anything about the guy. So when there was a guy who was 8th on my board, like a Cassius Winston available, and he may not fit the timeline particularly well, he was still there. You could have taken him at 37, and I would have gave the Thunder a way better grade. Probably would have bumped him up to a B just for that alone. But yeah, solid C- there for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And we will roll into the last team of this segment, the Orlando Magic. I want to start with this one just because I want to break my arm patting myself on the back. This was the guy that, Lee, you did this earlier with Obi Toppin. In my mock draft, I had the Orlando Magic taking Cole Anthony with the 15th pick. So with that, I gave them an A. I don't know why I didn't give them an A+. Maybe it's just because he was like their only pick. And maybe I don't really like, how much does it really help the Orlando pass an A, right? So I had him a lot higher on my board than where he was taken, though. I had him 9th on my board. And I really think that this is what the Magic needed, is a guy who has lead guard capability and potential, a guy that should be able to go and get a bucket. That's one thing that they've lacked for years, is just a guy who can go get their own bucket. And I think that Cole Anthony could be one of those guys. I think that he could be that type of point guard in today's NBA. So the Magic taking him at 15 made total sense to me. Lee, I gave him an A. What did you give him?
Yeah, I gave him a B. I like the Cole Anthony pick a lot, especially considering who was still left on the board and what the Orlando Magic kind of need to infuse on that roster. I had him at 18th. They got him at 15th. Don't have any issues with it at all, and have certainly kind of shared my opinions on the tough part about evaluating Cole Anthony is his inefficient shooting numbers paired with the fact that he was on a highly deficient roster at UNC.
Yes.
So it just kind of depends on where you fall on that argument, whether you believe Cole Anthony is more at fault for his unimpressive efficiency numbers or whether he was making the best out of a horrible situation. I kind of fall in the middle of those two arguments. And I think with improved health and with a more open system with better players around him, obviously could be a huge benefit to Cole Anthony. And he's going to have opportunity. I mean, Markelle Fultz is there and he's coming along, but DJ Augustine is not anymore. So there are guard minutes to be had in Orlando. And I think Cole Anthony is capable of contributing as a rookie. So solid B.
Yeah, he just also want to throw this out there. I was asked, on a show that I made a guest appearance on, who my dark horse rookie of the year candidate would be, and mine is Cole Anthony. I think if you're looking at kind of like the outside the usual suspects, I think Cole Anthony has a real shot in Orlando to make a case for rookie of the year, especially if they end up being a playoff team. What do you think, Austin? What did you end up giving the Magic?
Well, I gave him a B+. I'm kind of in the middle on Cole Anthony. I like him. I think I like his game a lot. I think he's got a lot of potentials. He's got, the NBA blood for sure. That'll help.
Yeah.
And he's a good defender. He's plenty athletic and quick enough to play the point guard position. He's got all the physical ability in the world. I just worry that he kind of doesn't seem like he's going to be a fit in the locker room right away. He kind of seems a little bit full of himself to me, arrogant in a way. I don't know. I just kind of always have gotten that about him. I feel like also too, the sons of former players kind of sometimes have to prove themselves just that little bit much more as well. So I actually do think it ended up being a good spot for him in Orlando, somewhere where, there's not going to be a ton of expectations or hype, and there's not really like a bona fide alpha dog in that locker room. So, it may be poised for him to step into kind of a leadership role early on. It may end up working out in his favor. We'll see. But I went with a B+. I like the pick, where he was in the draft and who was left. I mean, I don't know if there's anybody else better that I would have taken. So, B+.
All right, solid grade. All right, Lee, real quick before we wrap up, that's just for anyone watching or listening, that's the end of our draft segment. Lee, you and I are both like just now starting to put our feet in the water, at least on evaluating prospects for the upcoming NBA draft. Date TBD, to be determined. We don't know what the second half of the NBA schedule looks like right now. So with that being said, Lee, who are some prospects that have garnered a lot of your attention right now? And like, who are some guys that people should just like have in their back pocket to evaluate for next year's draft?
Yeah, totally. So here's a couple things I would say about the 2021 NBA draft as of now. Number one, first and foremost, it's so early. Most teams have only played like anywhere from 2 to 4 games. So having any type of firm numbers on prospects is really hard to do. Even developing ranges right now is hard to do because there's so many guys we haven't seen yet. For example,
the G League team grads, right?
Exactly. So there's at least 4 guys on the NBA G League Ignite team, which is a new thing this year, where some of the top prospects from grassroots basketball are going to be playing on a team in the G League, essentially. And we don't know when we're going to see those players. Jalen Green, Jonathan Kuminga, Deshaun Nix, and
Soto.
Kai Soto, right?
Yeah, Soto, yes.
And Isaiah Todd. So those are 5 guys we haven't seen yet. Tennessee hasn't played yet. They've got 2 super freshmen in Keon Johnson and Jaden Springer. But here's a couple things I would say that I have seen so far. Out of the guys I've seen so far, I think there are 3 guys that are slightly separating themselves. Evan Mobley is the 7-footer from Southern Cal that can do just about a little bit of everything. He can really pass for a 7-footer. That's his most impressive skill right now. Jalen Suggs, the point guard from Gonzaga, has been just phenomenal. Yes, he's in probably the perfect situation, but the way he operates in the pick and roll and as mature as an on-ball creator as he is, he's been just unbelievable. And then the last guy in that group would be Cade Cunningham from Oklahoma State. He kind of came into this class as somewhat of the consensus number 1 guy. I love Cade Cunningham, the way he changes directions at 6'8". His shooting numbers have actually been pretty solid so far. He's on a less talented team at Oklahoma State and is kind of carrying the load there. Those 3 guys to me are in the top elite class right now. Still a long way to go. 2 guys in kind of the mid to late lottery discussion that I really like is Day'Ron Sharp from UNC, 6'10", 6'11" freshman that can really pass as well. He's a tremendous offensive rebounder and a rim protector. I think he's starting to surprise some people. And then Kai Jones is
at Texas.
At Texas, that he's 6'11" swing man, basically.
Yeah. He's disguised as just a power forward right now, but
he's massive. Yeah. But he's got ball skills, and there's always a guy that makes a huge jump from freshman to sophomore year that we don't expect, and maybe that's Kai Jones. Last other things that I'm really kind of like putting my foot in the sand on, or however you want to say it. Corey Kispert is a first-round talent. I thought he was a first-round.
I know that you love Kispert. Yeah,
he's probably going to finish the season as a 50, 40, 90 shooter, which is really hard to do.
He's like a baby Kevin Love, it looks like, like the way he plays.
6'7", 220, and just shoots the cover off the ball. So I love him. And then the last thing I'll say, maybe a guy that most people don't know about, Sandro Mamukilishvili.
Yeah. You post on anyone who follows you on Twitter knows that you love Sandro.
Loves Mamu, Sandro, whatever you want to call him. He's got a bunch of great names. He's got a good game too. He's He's another massive dude. I mean,
he didn't have a great game his last game, though. I will say the last game that I watched him play, he wasn't his normal Sandro self.
Yeah, he can be. I mean, he was great against Louisville.
Yep.
I thought he was a draftable prospect in the 2020 class, like second round type guy.
I mean, if Christie could get drafted, then why not, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think he's a guy that not a ton of people are paying attention to yet. He's a senior. He's an older prospect, but at 6'11" with ball skills and the ability to shoot, I think he will rise and surprise some people.
Yeah, just a guy that I want to put in the mix of those guys. Baby Bagley, Marcus Bagley is kind of a baller right now at Arizona State.
Arizona State guys yet, but I've heard great things about him and Josh Christopher.
Do yourself a favor. So here's the thing: is Josh Christopher was
next on my list? I got him right here.
I'm with you. I got my notes. I just sat down and watched some Cade Cunningham tape today. So first off, Cade Cunningham has a very mature game. He's like he plays like a grandpa, like your grandpa league at the Y. It doesn't do anything outside of his comfort zone, and the things that he does like at a very next level. I will say I wish he was slightly more aggressive. Like that's the one knock in his game to me is that he does he's very pass first, which is totally fine. Like I like pass first, but he doesn't really have like an aggressive on the court personality. Maybe that's just a preference of mine, right? But I would throw Marcus Bagley on your watch list right now for Arizona State because Christopher was supposed to be like the number one guy, and he might still by the end of the season might still be that guy. But Marcus Bagley coming in has just popped off the screen, So he's one guy that I'm kind of like, he might end up being like my guy that I just am so in love with that I have him ridiculously high compared to other people. Is my Marcus Bagley. He could be my Cassius Winston, except that he's not a senior, So.
Right. True.
So Austin,
I do have a name that I'm interested in. What you guys think his draft value is Luka Garza from Iowa. I mean,
he's really tough, man.
Absolute scoring machine. Putting up those kind of numbers in the Big Ten like he did last year, 24 points per game. That's incredible. Mm-hmm. But he does seem like he doesn't have an NBA's type of game. He's kind of a below the rim kind of player like we talked about earlier. What do you guys think of him in terms of draft value?
You can go ahead, Lee. I'd love to hear your take.
Yeah, I think, right, people are trying to figure out whether Luka Garza is like a Tyler Hansbrough,
Dude, I said the same thing.
Yes, he did.
Uber productive college player. I honestly, I'm not ready to cast him into that boat yet.
Right.
I want to see Luka Garza this season in league play against some really good teams. And, they haven't played anyone great yet, but his numbers have been just mind-boggling, really.
Right. 34 a game right now.
Yeah.
He had 30 in the first half, I want to say, though.
Yeah, he outscored Western Illinois by himself in the first half of their game the other night.
Ridiculous.
30 to 28 at halftime. He had 30.
So, if you made me make a call on him today, I would probably have him in the second round. But
I would agree with that. Yeah.
I'm not married to that opinion, and I'm willing to kind of watch him over the year and see how it develops.
Yeah, I've heard varying opinions on him too. I kind of liken him to Tyler Hansbrough because everything that you love about college basketball, he epitomizes that, just the way that he plays the game. Right. But when we watch these guys, right, and we try to project them to that next level, what part of that game actually carries effectively to the next level, right? Rebounding will probably be there, but he has shown the ability to stretch the floor a little bit. So he is kind of a black hole on offense, and maybe that's just the system that they run. Maybe that's what's asked of him, but you would like to see them do him. You would like to see his coaching staff do him a favor and put him in some playmaking abilities to kind of show how versatile he can be on that offensive end, unless it's just not there. Not everybody can be a 7-foot guy who can, score inside it out and make that excellent, dribble pass, to the corner, so he's kind of that black hole offensively. Lee, I'm with you. If I had a first round draft pick, I wouldn't take him. But if I had that 30 through 35 pick, maybe I just take a stab at Luka Garza and see what I have in him. Maybe he turns into like a Nikola Vucevic type of player at the next level. That would be my analysis so far. And again, like you, Lee, I'm not married to that.
Perfect.
Interesting. I actually personally like him a lot. I think he's, I like the Tyler Hansbrough comparison, but he is 6'11". He's significantly taller, a little, than Hansbrough was, and he's a little bit better shooter. And he's a black hole on offense because Iowa gives him the ball to shoot almost every time down the court. I mean, I would love to see his usage rate because they rely on him for so much of their scoring. Yes, exactly. They run their entire offense through him in the post. So, it's not that big of a thing for me that he seems like a little bit of a black hole on offense. I like him. I think he's going to surprise people. He's bigger than people realize. And I mean, like I said, anybody that can put up those kind of numbers against the Big Ten, to me is, doing something special. So
I would just say,
was interested to see what you guys thought.
I would say watch some of these other freshmen that we're talking about, Austin, and maybe that would make you kind of.
Oh, I didn't necessarily mean up in their class. I just meant first round draft pick.
Yeah, he could. I mean, like Lee and I were saying, I think Lee, you feel the same way. Like he could be a late first round pick. Like I don't think that he's going to be anything like in the lottery. I don't project that, but like he could be a late first rounder. But yeah, Lee, I just want to thank you so much, man, for coming on to the show tonight. We have one more segment with you where we're going to wrap up the last 8 teams in the NBA. Just want to give you a quick minute, man, just to plug yourself, where the folks can find you and your work and anything that you have going on in the lab right now.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys as always, man. It's such a fun time to come and chop it up with you guys. Obviously, folks can see my Twitter handle at Which Carolina. You can find our podcast under the same name on just about any streaming platform that you might consume your sports content. So give me a follow or check out my stuff there, or check out our podcast. And then I'm always writing for hoopsprospects.com as well. Rich does a great job with the site, and I'll be contributing there with a lot of 2021 NBA draft stuff and of course some Charlotte Hornets stuff as well. Appreciate you guys.
Absolutely. And Lee, we're going to wrap up here ourselves, but we know we only got you for a little bit amount of time, man. So we're going to let you go. And then Austin and I will close out the show, but we just want to thank you again so much, man, for coming on. It's always a blessing when our cross pass, man.
Oh, me especially, I'm super thankful. I've got a big thank you gift for you for filling in for me, because you know way more about these draft prospects than I do. Honestly, no lie, anybody that's listening, as far as people that I personally have talked to about it, I think Lee is the most knowledgeable guy in terms of draft prospects that there is out there. So, read what he writes, listen to what he says. He knows what he's talking about.
Hey, I appreciate you guys a lot, man. I got my little niche, and I'll try and keep filling it.
You do great work, man. Appreciate you, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Peace out, guys. Good one.
All right, later, brother. All right, Austin, that was Lee Branscome of hoopsprospects.com.
Yes,
and dude, it's always nice when, like I said, it's not just lip service. I'll say it again. Anytime we get to work with Lee, man, it's a blessing, isn't it?
Right. It definitely is. I can't think of one person that we've even, considered working with that we haven't absolutely loved. So we're lucky in that aspect for sure.
We have a very rigorous screening process that we go through before we just let people come on. So it's not like we were just like struck gold and having Lee on here, right? We spoke with him several times, but he does great work. Please go to hoopsprospects.com and check his work out. Definitely. It's really, really well. And I'm sure that he's going to have a lot of people prepared for this upcoming draft.
That's where I go to get all my notes for these shows about draft prospects, is from his notes. So.
All right. Well, there you go. That's why you always agree with him. That makes a lot of sense. So there you go.
Makes me look good.
That's true. He does. But anyway, man, before we close the show, I didn't run this by you before the end, but we had some big news for the show coming up. We don't have all of the details yet, Austin, but do you want to share with the folks what the big news is?
Yeah. So Steven and I, the Breaking the Game podcast, is joining the Dash Radio network on the Nothing But Net channel, which is awesome. We're super excited. I mean, I know I am. I'm like astounded at it. So super happy, ready to keep putting in the work, ready to make the show even better. Anybody that's been listening to us will hear this and know that I mean it. But I'm worried about that time limit because we like to talk. Yeah, it's gonna be different, but we'll be able to get it done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're running at about an hour and 10 minutes on the Dash Radio that Austin is talking about. He said Dash Radio Network, not to nitpick, but I just want to put out there that we're not leaving Off the Ball Network for something different. This is just going to be an additional platform that we're going to be on that's going to allow us to promote our show, and even offtheballnetwork.com where you can get all of your sports needs. Plug. But yes, we were, so kind of how this happened is that the Off the Ball Network president, Chris LeBron, who's, a great friend of Austin and I, he was brought onto the Dash Radio platform that they have. And he does a show, which, is every Monday at noon. It's a great time. So please go check that out. He was in touch with Rob, who is kind of in charge of the Nothing But Net channel on Dash Radio. And they had recently so there was some stuff that happened to where they needed to fill some time slots, and they reached out to Chris. Chris, spoke kindly enough of our show to where they were interested in bringing us on, reached out to me and Austin. And, right now we don't know exactly when we're going to air and how many times a week. Typically we record twice a week. We're not going to be able to guarantee that both of those are going to be on Dash Radio, but there is a possibility that both can be. So we're neither here nor there on that yet. We don't know what day we're going to air yet, but we do know we put our name, or, our ink to paper. We know that we're going to be on the network. And as soon as we find out more details, we will definitely keep you guys posted and informed and up to date. But I just want to take this time, Austin, just to thank the viewers and the listeners who have supported our shows and obviously has helped us to be able to reach another step on the ladder, so to speak.
Right. Me too. Definitely. Thank you, everybody who's supported the show and any time between since we started and now. Thank you, Steven, for having me as your co-host. I'm glad we, connected and figured this out and got doing this together. I think it's been a lot of fun for me, for sure. I think we've grown a lot. Definitely. I'm excited for what the future holds. Dash Radio, I couldn't be more happy, honestly. Like I'm really excited about it. It's, like you said, it's another step on that ladder. We're on our way, I feel like.
Yeah. And, big shout out to all the viewers, listeners. Shout out to all the incredible guests that we've had on this show.
Oh,
we're going to have more coming. Austin, I haven't even shared this with you yet, but I'm going to talk with you offline. I already got more people, in the works that we're going to have here on the show here soon.
Sounds good to me.
So please just, keep, sharing the show, keep, liking, subscribing, reviewing, listening, all that fun stuff. My buddy Phil just said,
Thanks, Phil.
Great show, guys. Loved it. Big Phil, we got to have you on soon, man.
Right.
Once upon a time when, we were on a different network before Off the Ball, Austin and I were there. Yeah. Phil was there too. And I will tell you that Phil has one of the, I don't know, am I allowed to say this, but like, seductive voices I've ever heard on the
definitely
radio.
That's fine.
He's got like a very like Barry White,
Good
Luther Vandross. Like he's, you just listen. It's like butter on the radio. That's what
he would be breaking the game after dark. So
yes, for the grown and sexy, so to speak.
Right.
But Phil, appreciate you tuning in tonight, man. We got to have you on the show. Miss working with you, big guy. But Austin, do you have anything that you want to share with the people other than obviously us partnering up with Dash Radio?
Not anything super specific right now. I'm still working on my series of articles called Did They Do Enough? I got the third one out a couple of days ago. I covered the Los Angeles Lakers and all the moves that they made this offseason. So you can go ahead on Off the Ball Network and check that out. And yeah, thank you for, catching me on that. I definitely didn't want anyone to think that we were leaving Off the Ball Network in any way. Yeah. I love it. We both know how we feel about everybody there, so that's definitely never going to happen.
Yeah, well, they're the reason. Well, they're like the big reason why we are where we are today. They've helped us grow so much.
Well, I mean, it's our immense talent first and foremost.
Well, other than us just being amazing,
right? No, I'm obviously kidding. No, those guys know how much they mean to us. They're definitely, one of the best support systems that you could ask for.
Yeah, and we bring it up every episode. I'm going to do it today. I wish everybody had the group chat that we have with those guys. Right. Like talk every day. We bounce ideas off each other. We share when we're struggling. Like we just kind of do life together. It's amazing. I wish everybody had that same support system.
Right. Me too. It's awesome. I definitely, never realized how much I was missing something like that until I had it. Now that I have it, it's like, it's great. I don't feel like a crazy person when I'm rambling about sports because everybody else, that's all they do on there all day too. And at the same time, I don't feel like I'm boring people when I get way too into like stupid nonsense statistics and stuff because, they actually understand what I'm talking about. So it's nice.
Yeah, it's incredible. And that's why I like working with you, man, is because like I'm in my element. I'm in my element.
Same here. I definitely, enjoy doing this with you twice a week. I hope that we can keep it twice a week on Dash Radio. If not, we'll make it work one way or another, but I definitely don't want to do any less work. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I'll just touch on that real quick, Austin. We're still going to do twice a week. We just don't know if twice a week is going to be aired, so we may only have one, but like I said, Rob from Nothing But Net reached out to us, last night and said that there's a potential that both recordings could be on there. So we'll see, and we'll keep you updated. Right. He said that he would let us know this week. So, hopefully by Thursday we'll have, more complete information for you, but just couldn't hold it back, have to shout it from the mountains that, Dash Radio, Nothing But Net channel. Please go look them up on Twitter. They do a lot of great stuff. And like I said, Chris LeBron, our network president, is a part of that same network. So we're going to be working with him on Off the Ball and on Nothing But Net. So it's just double your pleasure, double your fun.
Well, good. I definitely have more than enough to talk about the cover 2 hours. So the more, the better.
Well, there we go.
I got stacks of notebooks like this, the stuff I want to get to. No.
Oh man, well we got to talk here soon after this then. All right, well let's keep this under an hour and 30 minutes. We're at an hour and 16 right now. Right. Austin, just thank you for what you do, man. Really appreciate working with you. Prayers continue for you and your family. Hopefully the missus is feeling better.
Unfortunately not really yet, but
hopefully
she'll start recovering here soon. She's a little bit better, but
that's good, man. Well, we've been praying for you guys.
My daughter had her tonsils out this week too, so that on top of everything was another challenge. So
yeah, well,
it's been a long week here for me, to say the least. But
yeah, well, we're going to continue to pray for the car residents, man, for sure.
Thank you, I appreciate that, guys. It means a lot to all of us, and I know it definitely does. Thank you very much.
Yep, and just if you could please just continue to send all your thoughts and prayers to my wife. She could be having a baby as soon as I'm done with this episode. I don't know. She could be in labor right now. But just
that's how much we love doing this show for you guys. Is that he doesn't even know. She could be
I don't even know.
In the hospital, and he wouldn't even know.
I wouldn't even know.
Obviously.
And my wife,
obviously, he's a little bit better husband than that.
Well, just to kind of share a little bit of my life with you guys, my wife may just be like, well, I just went to the hospital because I didn't want to interrupt your show. And I would be like, what are you talking about? Anyway, yeah, this is kind of how things work here. But, we'll leave it there. We'll end on a good note. Austin, do you want to say something nice to the people?
Yeah, thanks for everything, all the support, everybody who listens, everybody who watches, everybody who critiques us, even if you think we don't know what we're talking about. Thank you for taking a little time out of your day to at least pay attention to us, because that's what's helped get us to where we are now. And I just ready to keep it going and see how big we can make this thing. So thank you guys. You're all a part of it for sure. And, I know I speak for Steven and myself when I say how much we appreciate you guys.
Absolutely, yeah, and I don't have anything else to add to that. So for my awesome co-host, Austin Carr, for myself, for the Breaking the Game podcast, which you can follow at the two little tags that you have on Instagram, at Twitter, at BTG NBA Pod. You can follow Austin at Austin Carr 10. You can follow myself at Steven BTG on Twitter. And we just love and appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch up with you guys next time. Much love, everybody.
Have a good one.
All right, man. Good show. Good stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I feel like I felt like I couldn't talk today. Ugh.
Yeah, I felt like I couldn't catch
like
my breath.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's even though I don't really have symptoms at all. It definitely affected my breathing for sure. Like I'm constantly out of breath. It's awful.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, dude. And if you need to, like, just let me know if you need me to kind of.
No, I just glad to hear that it was only obvious to me.
No, I couldn't tell at all. That's why I had to, pause my mic every once in a while just to be like. So just to let you know, I have reached out to a woman named Shannon Walsh who writes, and she's like the NBA lead for Belly Up Sports, the NBA side. I don't know if you're familiar with Belly Up, but
I feel like her name's familiar. What is it again?
Shannon Walsh. Her Twitter handle is SWALSHY63. So Schwalshy.
Okay.
63. And yeah, she does Belly Up Sports for the NBA side. So I asked her if she would want to maybe come on Thursday and just have her on. I know that we put a lot of time into the NBA tiers, but I kind of like, and I'm not saying I want to throw those away, but because I do want to address them. I wanted to maybe try to at least have one guest in our pocket that we could probably have for going, to Dash.
For sure, that's cool.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So she said that she's interested. Obviously as things if things pick up, it may just be kind of like another off-season recap type thing because there may not be news really happening between then and now. So
there'll be something for us to talk about.
There typically is, but we
can rank City Edition jerseys for all I care.
Hey, so funny you say that. She actually did a segment on Belly Up where she did rank the City Edition jerseys.
I'm not gonna lie, this year's versions, I like almost every one of them. I think it's the best overall set that they've had so far.
So maybe we can do that then because I think it was a 3-part segment. I read a few of them, but yeah, she did the City Edition.
Key favorite to be my number one pick is that New Orleans jersey. That thing is sweet.
I did like the New Orleans. I like New Orleans. I like your Indiana Pacers one too. Miami is up there as well.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So Milwaukee,
Miami's is up there, but Miami's almost looks like something that came out of NBA 2K. Like it's cool. I think that's what they're going for. It's definitely very Miami.
It's very Miami Vice. Yes.
It's not exactly easy on the eyes.
I love it. I think it's.
I think it's awesome. It's just.
I think they're beautiful. Yeah, it is a lot. But yeah, so she and when I messaged her, I asked if there was anything like super in particular that she wanted to discuss, and she was like, "Not really." Actually, let me just if you could just give me a quick second. I'll call up the message that she said. She says, yeah, so I said, is there anything that you would like to for sure bring up? She said, I don't think so. It'd be a bit of a closer to the start of the season. So easy topics, if you haven't covered them yet, are hits and misses of the off season, that Christmas schedule, jersey updates, obviously, but whatever works. And I told her that we have talked about everything but the jerseys. So maybe we can do kind of like a jersey special where that would be cool. Kind of like, I don't want to make it like,
it's just plug the crap out of it and try to get a team to send us a jersey.
Yeah, that would be dope. And I don't want to make our first show be a girl and ask her about fashion.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so I would like there to be some NBA discussion in there as well. But I've kind of made it a point. Like, I don't know if you watched See You Sunday, but we had Steffi Smalls on who does like fantasy football and stuff like that. Maybe you could reach out to her and have her on the show with you and Odie, right? So,
yeah.
But she does a lot of fantasy stuff.
Scott knows so much more about fantasy than I will ever know. It's unreal. Like, he's crazy how many of his picks so far have been right. Like the over-unders we did last week, I think he missed like 2 out of 18. And I got like 6 right.
Well, between the two of you then, you guys did all right.
Oh yeah. It's me pretending like I know what I'm talking about because I win a lot of bad fantasy leagues, and co-host who knows what he's actually talking about. No, I know enough to get by.
You picked the right guy then, right? Like,
for sure.
I mean, you both can sound intelligent.
But
yeah, I mean, there's people out there, man.
Right?
There's people out there.
We're not the only crazy ones.
No, that's true. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll just I'll let Shannon know that we kind of want to do a feature since she wrote out them on the jerseys, sure. And since we didn't cover them, you know, it may be a cool time to go ahead and do that, and then we can just do like the obvious, like, you know, biggest win in the free agency, biggest loss, you know, kind of what storylines do you know, maybe we can kind of project storylines that haven't been talked about yet. Maybe we can pick like a story that could be like maybe our closing thought, you know, is, you know, what's one storyline that no one's talking about that will end up happening.
Which franchise is more likely to become a dumpster fire by mid-season, Houston or Brooklyn?
Yeah. Competing dumpster fire episode. I like it. So,
and the weird thing is, thinking about that, like, both of those teams could be considered a dumpster fire and still win enough games to be like the 4th or 5th seed in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like, Houston's going to be a shit show regardless.
Yeah.
Even if they're in first place.
Yeah. So,
so what I was saying about the affiliate thing that.
Oh, yeah, please.
So you've been on Podcorn before, have you? I think
I've never heard of Podcorn.
So Podcorn is this website where companies that are looking to advertise on like podcasts like ours post like what they want and how much they're willing to spend. And there's different, like, you know, different size companies. Obviously, some of them have a $50 marketing budget, and then some of them have like a $20 million marketing budget, depending on what company it is. But basically, it's just you mention their product or service and talk about it for 30 or 40 seconds. You can either do it to open the show, to end the show, or in the middle. It's just a little quick like ad about it and why you think it's good or why you think your listeners would like that. And then you actually we put together like a bid and bid how much we think it's worth for them to pay us. So like, basically what it is right now, the ad that they want to run would run for 4 episodes. It'd be one ad for each episode for 4 episodes. And then we would put together like our proposal and how much we think that's worth. And if they accept it, they accept it, then you get paid that much. And I was looking through it, and the very first thing on the list was the Fort Wayne Mad Ants, like wanting advertisements for the G League, and because they've been canceled since March, you know, and they're coming back. So I just thought I was just looking at it because I thought, you know, hey, there's a good chance we're going to be getting a lot more, you know, a lot bigger audience here soon because of this. Yeah. And, you know, it'd be a good time to try to look into it. And then I went on there, and the very first one was my hometown G League team.
Dude, yeah. Yeah, do you just kind of want to captain that?
Yeah, for sure. I can take care of it. I was planning on doing most of it anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great idea, man. Like,
did you hear that monkey knife fight thing that Chris had me read on the fantasy show?
No, I did not.
Chris got a script from Monkey Knife Fight for like a little, you know, basically it's called a mid-roll. It's exactly what we would be doing for the G League or for whatever we end up doing it, deciding on. But basically it's just a little script that tells you like key words to try to hit and what words you have to stay away from, and you kind of just make it your own. And
well, they're like a fantasy like app anyway, so yeah, that makes sense that would be on the show. Okay,
so you know, if that's a good example of what I mean, if you want to go look at it, but every single podcast does it.
Yeah, I know. I listen to so many NBA podcasts. I know exactly what you're talking about as far as
if you listen to Jalen and Jacoby is incredible at him. Like, he is so good at sounding like he's just having a conversation with his buddy about his favorite pair of shoes, and he's selling the crap out of these shoes. So
yeah. Okay, yeah.
Thought it'd be something worth trying.
No, dude, please. Yeah, I would absolutely love that. I've never even heard of that place. So yeah,
Podcorn has a list right now. I think there's like 98 companies that are looking for affiliate marketing opportunities. And they range anything from like we could, like if we wanted to, we could have someone from the Mad Ants come on our show and interview. That's one of the things that they would probably pay a little bit more for. But they also do like the little, about a minute long advertisements. You can do like a round table discussion on something that's doesn't really seem like it would fit for what we're doing, but there's all kinds of different opportunities. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, let's I may hop on there too and look at some. What is kind of your, like, I've daydreamed about this before, if that makes me a loser, I'm a loser. But like I kind of want to, like when I do advertising, I don't want to be like the type of dude that's going to advertise something that like I would never like or use. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I don't want to fake it. But I'm also like all for whatever kind of helps get us, recognition at the same token. So like, I don't know which side I, kind of live on. So like, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I see value in being one of those people that just plugs after plug after plug, in some instances, but I also think it's going to be pretty hard, at least until we get, comfortable with them and good at it, to make it seem real if it's not something that we actually are, know something about or use. Like I did one once on my old show for a brand of sunglasses, and that was easy because I wear glasses. Like I just pretended, just acted like I was talking about my own glasses. Yeah. But like I wouldn't want to like plug, home goods or,
you're right.
Spotify.com or stuff like, well, maybe Spotify, but
I would do Spotify. Yeah. Like I know, like something like
something that's not related.
Yeah. Like I've heard what is it? Brian Windhorst like actually like plugged like some like health something or whatever. Right. And he was kind of like the antithesis of it and said, well, if you don't want to look like me, you probably want to try this.
Right.
So maybe you could put like that type of spin on it. But Wendy is also like super famous.
Well, if it works out with the Mad Ants, I actually went to their very first game ever when they first became a team. I actually went to quite a few games. The cheapest tickets are $5, so I wouldn't.
Yeah, and that also kind of plugs in what we were just like. We love basketball. Like exactly. I had a guy from the Erie Bayhawks, a guy who was a beat writer for the Erie Bayhawks, like come on the show. So like, we love NBA. Obviously, the G League is like part of the NBA. So.
Well, I feel like, the G League is going to be growing for sure too. I think you're going to start seeing more and more kids go that route.
Yeah.
Especially if things keep going the way they're going now in the NCAA and every single good player gets money under the table and they all get caught and end up sitting out most of their only year in college anyway. Eventually it's going to start to not make sense.
Yeah, they got. I think that they need to do a good job with it this season, though. But yeah, I may hop on there tonight, man, and just kind of look and see what it is that you're telling me about.
It's like popcorn, but it's pod.
Yeah, like for podcasting. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, dude, I'm all for like trying to like branding the show and like obviously like this is what we want to do for a living someday, right? So yeah,
right.
I mean. I think that's
as we grow an audience and get more opportunities to do it, or be able to offer to different companies and different products and stuff, we can just pick stuff that we actually like or use or want to do. You know what I mean? Like I know a lot of podcasts do like subscription boxes where they'll like do an advertisement for like bespoke post or like the man box or whatever because they want to get that box and they already maybe did and they get a discount on it.
So
stuff that way.
Yeah, Nate Duncan actually did this. He got a bed from Theragun and was like, hey, I want to be able to, like, he said, I just want to do this for free. Could I just like advertise your stuff on my show for free? And apparently he earned them enough business to where they were like, hey, we'll start like monetizing this for you now. So like that could be another route. Like if there's a product that we really want to kind of promote on the show, maybe we can like at least let them be informed of what we do. So I'm also just kind of curious to like how, like if I'm sure some of the products like you have to have X amount of listeners and all this other types of things.
A lot of the bigger companies put a prerequisite that you have to average like 1,000 downloads per episode, but there's tons of what they call like micro advertisers that are like little, one person startup companies that literally have a couple $100 to spend on marketing, and that's what they use it on. Okay. So there's all kinds of different, sizes and breadths of opportunities there. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. And that would be something too to consider when we are in our 55-minute episodes, that we also got to consider that too. So,
and then also if you wanted, we could even use like ad slots as a way to attract more, possible opportunities. Like, say we really want to be affiliated with this company, we could like jokingly like say, hey, why don't you so and so be a sponsor for us? Stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like kind of like stick it in there every so often.
Can you give me like a for instance of what you're saying?
So like, say we really wanted to be affiliated with, I don't know, Monster energy drinks. Say we both love Monster and we want to be affiliate marketers for them, but we haven't, heard anything from them, or we reached out or whatever, or didn't maybe. So we would start talking to you just talk about why you like Monster and say, hey, that sounds like a good sponsorship. We should be a sponsor for them, or they should be a sponsor for us. I don't know. It's kind of hokey. It's just a thing that I've seen a lot of people do. That if you're good at being funny or with delivery and timing, which isn't my strong suit, but it might be for you. It can work out really, really well. It can be really funny.
Okay.
But we don't have to. It's just a thought.
No, man, like I'm like your textbook overthinker, and I just realized that we are still live.